every once in a while you say, somebody's getting so upset that eventually, this situation's getting so bad, there's going to be an explosion. That's almost what you need here.
You know what? It did have that that terrible tragedy had that collateral positive benefit with regards to bringing people together. I don't think it would happen this time. I think that this has deteriorated so much further now that you'd actually have a formidable contingent of people that would be cheering it on. It's terrible thing to believe is even possible, but it's
what would happen is you get both sides would start blaming the other. You were asleep at the switch. You should have done this. You were the ones that caused this. You're the ones that instigated it. You'd be back and forth, back and forth. Someone asked me the other day, a client asked me the other day, and I was kind of surprised at my own answer. I thought about it for a second, and I gave him the answer, and it was, why don't you think we've had a terrorist attack within the United States? And I said to him, and I thought for a second, and my response was, if you look at ISIS and Al Qaeda, and you look at their techniques and what they try and do, right? You go into a crowd, and you make people unsafe if you set off a suicide bomber, or you blow up a car, or you detonate a bomb, or you do whatever you do, right? You make people feel uncomfortable, right? You cause a whole bunch of chaos. Right, you get people to start backbiting each other and and arguing about it. The reason we don't see anything from them, they don't have to do anything. We're doing it to ourselves.
We're doing it to ourselves, right?
They could sit on the front porch of their cave, crack open a beer, and laugh their ass off as they're watching CNN and watching riots that are going on within the states. It's like they don't have to do anything,
right?
Right? It would almost be. The lunacy of where we are today, it would almost be a saving grace for something like that to happen, because then it would just jolt everybody back to reality. Other than that, you just don't know where this ends. There are so many parts and pieces to it, between the social media, between regular news media and their selection coverages and what they're trying to achieve and who they're going for. I don't know what the solution is.
I think as a people, we can handle, any problem, any challenge that faces us if we all agree that, that we want to save our society. And you could take all the threats from COVID, from the Russians, the Ukrainians, the Chinese, the Venezuelans, the Iranians, you throw them all together. All of that together is not as great a threat to this country as is fundamentally a segment of our own population saying that this democracy is not worth saving. The republic is not worth saving. That is far more serious than all of that other stuff put together. And that's why I think, we really have to face that fact that part of it is fomented by social media. It's exacerbated by the fact that this last generation has been woefully uneducated on civics. The average voter does not know the average amount of civics needed to make an intelligent decision. And that's where you get, groupthink and people are just following like sheep rather than making their own decision. And fundamentally, if we have an educated, society that is not being fed fake news, we will eventually, and always in the past, have made the right decisions. But that is not happening today. And, we talked earlier about this, all the discussion of immigration, legal immigration, illegal immigration. The greatest strength, I think, and our saving grace, as a society is the amount of legal immigration that we have, because at least the legal immigrants go through an indoctrination process where they are taught the principles of the society that they are joining. They understand the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights far better than the average third or fourth generation American with the education that they get in today's public schools. And they're more often the ones that are leaving societies that have experimented with systems other than ours that have been so unsuccessful. And you see them being, the most pro-American, segment of our society.
Yeah, that whole thing about, I'm still trying to figure out where the term illegal became undocumented. You're illegal, you're illegal. Right? Do it in any other country. Try and run across the border in any other country, you get shot. And if you don't get shot, you get arrested and you go to jail. There's no illegal is illegal, but we've gone so far, past common sense that we're allowing these things, and the impact. I mean, we've talked about it in prior shows about unintended consequences, right? You look at what's happening with the illegal immigration. You look at what's happening, especially in Southern California. You look at areas like that where it's impacting the quality of life, and it's impacting the quality of life not because they come across, but the fact that they start eating up all of the resources. You have a population that demands services that you're just not prepared for. Your hospitals become overcrowded. Your ambulance system, medical transportation becomes overwhelmed. Your law enforcement becomes overwhelmed. It's the quality of life issues that really start to affect. It's those unintended consequences, and it's those are the real issues that you run into. And then, from our perspective, and you start looking at that as risks, and then you start looking at, corporations and having to make decisions on how they're going to secure their facilities, the technologies that they're going to use, the policies and procedures they're going to put into place. And you realize now that you have a whole nother dynamic that you need to be aware of and you need to be, prepared for. It used to be, you had the common sense, you had, the financial issues, and occasionally a political issue. And that's how you basically made your decisions, right? About what technologies you were going to deploy or how you were going to solve a security or a risk issue. And now you got this whole new dimension that's coming in that, separate and apart from, the internal politics. Politics and you see this all so more than I do, but did politics in the world in putting in devices in and creating security postures and programs and bringing in vendors and recommending vendors. The big politics in that used to be, okay, look, we got to use this guy because it's his brother-in-law. But this guy is a good friend that he went to high school with so-and-so. And those are the political issues. Today, we're looking at it in a whole different dimension. And it's going to have some bad effects.
Well, do you have any hope or expectation or both that something will change once we at least get past the election and the temperature goes down a bit?
In all of the planning that I'm doing now with clients, it's all about how bad it's going to be. Regardless of politics, regardless of what side of the fence you're on, it doesn't matter. I think either way this breaks, it's going to go bad. If Trump wins, there's going to be riots. If Trump loses, there's going to be celebrations that'll turn into riots. If Trump loses, he challenged the elections, there's going to be riots. If Biden loses and challenges the elections, there's going to be riots. I think we have enough nuts on both sides of the aisle that it's just not going to be pleasant. And I think it's something that can be ongoing.
Well, you forgot the other possibility that Biden wins, Trump doesn't challenge him. Right. And there's still riots because the super left, wants to make sure that Biden goes does exactly what they want or else.
But this is going to be the hanging Chad times 50. This is going to go straight across the country. And when you start looking at, tactics and techniques that have been used by anarchists, right, by the protesters, when you start looking at the tactics that they've been using, right, with the fire bombings and the rioting and the looting, the process that we're talking to clients about now is actually putting plans in that are very similar and equate to when an embassy gets overrun, right? How they have to be able to shut down quickly, and throw stuff in a burn bag and burn the classified material and then secure the keys and all of that stuff and secure the personnel and extricate the personnel. It's that type of a thing. And you got to sort of meld that into a good hurricane plan or a good, adverse weather plan where you may wind up being stuck in the building for a week. So you got to make sure that you got, provisions for staff to be able to stay there. Because if it really gets out of control and gets bad, the city goes on a total lockdown and all your mass transit gets cut off, right. And they put up checkpoints and nobody in. What do you do? So it's ironic. You sit there and you shake your head. You look at the plans and you shake your head and you go, I can't believe we're actually doing this.
Right. Well, the only thing worse is just putting your head in the sand and ignoring that it's a possibility. Hopefully it's not a probability and only a possibility, but you still need to prepare for that, for those potential consequences.
And you do. And you don't want to be the sky is falling guy. You don't want to be the one that says, hey, here's what we think is really going to happen. But the reality is when you look at your past experience and you look at the tactics they've deployed and what they've done, yeah, you need to put something in place. You can't find yourself in that role where it's the old, not only what do you know and when did you know it, but why didn't you? What do you anticipate?
Well, thank you, Sal, for being both host and guest today.
This is a fun experience. I like this. This is good.
We will have more in this Common Sense series where hopefully we can look more positively at common sense increasing rather than decreasing. But it has a lot of consequences in a number of areas of specialization that we will focus on this series where we query each other and all of our years of experience. You have been listening to the Risk Advisor podcast hosted by Jim Henry and Sal Freri. We ask you subscribe to this show and like us on our social media sites like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you are interested in having one or both of us speak at an upcoming event or would like to consult with us, please go to our webpage at theriskadvisor.com podcasts to set that up. Also, if you know that someone that would like to be that would make a great guest, please go to our webpage at theriskadvisor.com and make your suggestion. Remember, you can hear the show on your favorite podcast platform, YouTube, and of course, stream it at theriskadvisor.com. Thanks again for listening, and we hope you tune in again next week.